So now we're moving on to work experience. Now, work experience itself is a government requirement for all students who are of sixth form age, whether they're attending school sixth forms or dedicated further education colleges, to complete in order to provide them with the necessary soft skills and in order for them to demonstrate their dedication for their chosen subject discipline or their chosen pathway. Now, generally speaking, work experience is most effective where students have very, very deliberately selected and pursued placements that are very clearly relevant to either the subject discipline they're planning on applying for university, or indeed if they've got a particular apprenticeship in mind, a pathway that obviously links to that work experience, and indeed if they've got a particular career in mind already. Any work experience that they can gain in that area demonstrates a commitment to that part of industry and therefore is looked upon by employers incredibly favourably and looked upon by universities and apprenticeship providers incredibly favourably. So while at Newman College we are able to support students and point them in the right direction in terms of trying to find opportunities for work experience, we are as a college unable to actually find work experience for all students. This is the responsibility of the student themselves and is actually part of the organisational and soft skills that they are expected to develop as part of this. Now, this year, we have designated the week commencing the 18th of July for our students to complete this work experience. And any work experience you support your young person to obtain will need to occur during this designated week, although there are some exceptions which I will explore in just a moment. So as this is a legal requirement, it falls upon us as a college to visit students while they're on this placement. So we will be following up in that week and visiting either virtually or physically every single student that is doing work experience. So the benefits of work experience are numerous. It's not just the personal development that students gain from it in terms of levels of confidence, their ability to network with people, to get their foot in the door to a particular industry or career path that they're interested in. It's also a way of actually working out whether that career path is correct for them and whether they may need to change tack at this time. While work experience will be asked for by every single pathway that we've talked about this evening, so whether it's university, whether it's an apprenticeship, whether it's an internship, every single one will require students to demonstrate what they have done towards their work experience. It is absolutely fundamental if your young person is considering applying to medicine, dentistry, veterinary science, or indeed nursing. It is an absolute prerequisite that some relevant work experience to that pathway has been undertaken, because their application simply will not be considered without that work experience. And in terms of relevant work experience in those areas, we're talking about work shadowing. So for example, it could be shadowing a GP, it could be shadowing or assisting in a veterinary practice, it could be any of those sorts of aspects of immersing themselves in that industry environment that will be required. These are highly, highly competitive fields. So anything students can do to demonstrate that dedication to that specific career path will put them ahead of other candidates. In terms of securing work experience, really, really important to be aware that students can't really take shortcuts with this. Work experience can't be an existing part-time job that your young person already has. It has to be voluntary and unpaid, although you can slightly get around that if the student is working within the same organisation that they currently have employment with, but they volunteer in another sector of that is relevant to their career path. That will be counted as work experience in terms of the legal requirements around it. We have asked that the work experience is conducted and carried out within the designated week that we have just outlined. However, we do recognise that there will be some exceptions to that rule during term time. So what I would say about that is if your student is applying for one of those highly competitive fields in medicine or veterinary science, etc., there is some flexibility, of course, because we want them to be able to secure that work experience because it's so essential to their specific applications. If your young person is also on a triple BTEC in health and social care, you'll find that work experience actually is integrated into their course and, of course, may occur at times other than this designated slot. But for the vast majority of students, it should be occurring during this designated period. It's really important as well that any work experience that you support your young person to secure is subject to a risk assessment. And we will be writing to you shortly with the sort of requirements around work experience and how risk assessments can be obtained and so on. And we've also got a lot of support for you on our Newman College webpage. We've got a dedicated work experience section there where you can search for work experience. It has templates for letters or emails that you could support your young person to contact employers with. And we hope that you will find that useful. But, you know, our duty of care to our students is such that risk assessment is essential, and it's also essential that that work experience can be evidenced. So that may well be with either a reference from the employer themselves, and it's worth bearing in mind that in this COVID era, some work experience offers will not be live, they will be virtual, and this is perfectly acceptable for work experience. However, students will need to download either a certificate of completion or some proof or a screenshot that that work experience has been completed by them. If you really feel like you want to take your young person to your own workplace, that is also permissible as work experience and counts as working towards that legal requirement. So students do have a degree of flexibility in terms of what they can do with their work experience. But as we said earlier, the more relevant it is to either the subject areas they're planning on applying for at university or to the actual career path they have in mind, the more powerful it is and the more of an advantage it will confer upon them.